Miniken Family Tree page, and we're in the home at the home page. If we were to go over to trees and click on Miniken Family Tree, it'll take us to the Miniken Family Tree. And right now I've been working on John and Mary Riley, that is Edward's parents, who was married to Johanna, and Johanna and Ed were Grandpa's parents. And these are his siblings and the spouses of his siblings. And I was working on trying to find out John Riley's ancestors. He was born in Ireland and came over in about 1855, and Mary came over about that same time, but I'm having trouble finding their records. I was hoping that I could do a DNA test and it would help me a little bit with that. And so here is the DNA story that I sent a text about, and it shows where we came from over here: Norway, Iceland, and Scotland is some of the area, and England and Ireland. So here you see that Ireland was 41%, and it breaks it down into these areas that are surrounded by a dashed line that give you a little bit more information. I think they just give you some more information about some of your ancestry, but they don't give you every single teeny little bit. So they just give you some focus areas of interest. And so Munster and North Munster are areas where some of our ancestors came from. And then also England, Scotland, Wales, Norway, and Indigenous America North. And if you go to the DNA and you look at your DNA matches, and you go to see all of a list of all of our genetic matches that have submitted a genetic test and either do or do not have a tree, you see that brother Jim is here, and that you can see where you can view a little bit more close up his match, and you can see the ethnicity here of what things are the same. And with Jim, he has 0 Wales and 0 Norway, just luck of the ancestral draw. Either that or they just didn't pick it up. They tell you that it's a range, and so I'm not quite sure of how all of that breaks down, but in Jim's DNA results, he shows that he's got 0% Wales and I have 5%, and I've got 3% Norway and he's got 0%. Uh, and so then if you go back to the other matches, you can click on a map of all of the matches. It loads all of the DNA tests that have been submitted by everybody and where they are currently living. So we've got 3 people in Australia that we're genetically matched with, and who knows when they moved there. And also New Zealand, and then this other one in Australia. And then we've got somebody on the Shetland Islands, and then here in England, Ireland, and Scotland. So you can go back to the DNA story, and if you click on one of these areas that have the circle, the dashed circle around it, they've linked up some of your the tree a little bit more specifically, so that you can see that you can go to the overview, and it just gives you some general story about what's going on in this area. This is an area, a community they call it, where there's a lot of matches, and where there's a link. And so you can go through time here about what's going on and people in your tree and where they came from. So we've got somebody here in Ireland, Margaret Bridget Haley, and that is our third great grandmother. And then if you click on view the profile, then it goes to the information that I've put in the tree, and it shows that um, Margaret Bridget Haley and Dennis O'Loughlin were married, and they had Mary Ann O'Loughlin Grant, and they had 9 children, dot, 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 to me. And um, if you go back, just hit the back button, and you can go through time here and see that in 1825, uh, uh, they talk a lot about German because there's a lot of Germans that migrated into Minnesota, but that really doesn't pertain to us at all. We really don't have, we've got somebody on grandma's side of the family that was German, but very little in there, and it didn't show up in the genetic links at all. So, but here, if you go to 1850, then it shows that the people in my tree during that time period left from Ireland to go to Minnesota, and that was Bridget Moran, and that is Dennis O'Loughlin's mother, and Johanna, that's Dennis O'Loughlin's daughter and granddaughter, and then Mary O'Loughlin. So you can go click on this and it'll take you in there a little bit more closely to show you when she died and when she was born. And you can go back to view the profile in the tree and see that Mary Ann O'Loughlin was Dennis's daughter, and that she had Johanna O'Loughlin Grant, and Johanna Grant, and then she had Grandpa, and then down to me, and then you can hit the back button and go back to where you were, and then you can go to 1875, and that goes that doesn't tell you much there, but you can go to 1900. You can go through time here where you find out what's going on with the weather and the whatever there, and it shows that then we moved over to Johanna moved over to Seattle and lived in Seattle, and that some of the other members of the extended family moved over here. So that's enough. And then you can go back to the tree if you want and look in the Miniken family tree and type in a name up here of somebody like, let's see here. We'll type in William Miniken. And so it gives you different choices that you could choose on that. And uh, the one that fought in the Civil War that was uh, John Pinckney's dad takes you there, and then it shows you William Miniken. He was married to Mary Isabella James. And if you go back to the DNA here again, the DNA story, there was something interesting about Mary Ellen James. She's down here in this area. I couldn't find very much information about her by just doing census searches, but when I clicked on here, it showed that uh, featured match. See, they do featured matches. There's somebody that's related to us in the genetic pool. Um, and in 1850, there's some information about Mary Isabella James being over in this area, and then that a lot of the people that early on settled into this area then migrated over. Mary Isabella James migrated over here and married William Miniken and had John Pinckney, who had our grandfather, who had dad. All right. There's a little something, and I'm going to put people's email addresses in so that they can take a look at this, and you can have access to some of this clickable stuff. I'm hoping. We'll find out. Now, if I can find out how to turn this off.